plastic waste management in rural India. I request Pawan to introduce the speaker and then we'll.
Hello everyone, this is the third seminar in this series. Kedar Soni is the technology entrepreneur who has built research and analytics companies. His earlier company Informate was acquired by Nelsons, and Kedar studies waste management as part of his volunteering stints at his own society, where he implemented surgicalization at source at on-site compositing. He set up Green Communities Foundation in 2017 and replicated this model across the various societies in Mumbai, and current focus areas for GCF are rural waste management and ward levels waste management program in Mumbai. Kedar is a BTech from IIT Bombay and a PGDM from IIM Lucknow, and started his career with Nestle in the marketing function. So welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for being here. I hope it is worth your while spending this time here. And thank you so much, Professor Rao, for inviting me. Like he said, I just met him barely about a month back, and he was kind enough to invite me for this. So one big disclaimer: I don't have any, I don't have any degree in waste management or in rural assets. So I haven't studied anything formally. Whatever you will hear is just based on a lot of just practical experience, whatever I have been doing over the last 4 or 5 years. Having said that, please put in all your engineering, rural, all those caps. Give all the critical feedback that you can, ask questions and so on. And like the introduction said, I started my career with Nestle. Okay, I mean, I did a lot of things at IIT when I was here, and during the convocation I realized I had done some metallurgy as well. So I did a whole lot of other things. And then I, of course, joined Nestle, and what I'm doing today, I always keep thinking that, okay, this is all karma, biting back, right? All the plastic that I put in the market as Nestle, as a brand manager in Nestle, I'm now kind of taking it back, this time. That's how I'm looking at this thing. But 7-8 years back when I went down this journey, I mean, before that I wouldn't have imagined that I'll be doing something like this, right? And it happened accidentally, the way I got into this space. I'm not going to get into that. But the last 7-8 years have been very, very different from my earlier 20 years in terms of, my whatever, working life, corporate life, and so on. Anyway, so I'm just going to... no, I think it's okay. So we work in Mumbai and rural Maharashtra. Our basic aim is to save waste from getting littered, dumped, or burnt, and so on. See, a lot of I'm not going into too many details, but about 7,000-8,000 tons of waste from Mumbai alone goes to the dumping grounds every day. Okay, and there are a whole lot of reasons for that, but whatever we have been doing over the last 7 years, the attempt is to save all of this waste from going into the dump. So segregation at source, composting, recycling, whatever we talk about, right? So there are a whole lot of things, that small programs that we work on. It's completely ground up, you can say. So it's a mix of ground up and top down. We work with communities, so housing societies, slums, schools, colleges, and so on. At the same time, try to engage with the municipal corporation as well. So it's a mix of ground up and top down. And wherever possible, we try to implement on-site composting systems and encourage people to segregate and send most of their waste for recycling or whatever is the correct destination. And it's nothing, it's a drop in the ocean, but yeah, we track this, how much waste we have saved from going into the dumping grounds and so on. So it's a roughly that kind of a number. So how I got into rural. So I think about 5-6 years back I had visited some of the villages, and before that I had actually not visited or stayed in a village, although I had my ancestors are from there. In fact, recently, so we have some relatives in Ratnagiri district and so on, but like the first 40 years of my life I had never even visited a village. And then I visited one of the villages, and the first thing which struck me was the plastic that you see all across, right? And I guess most of you all have done some, so sir was mentioning, you all have done some rural stints, right? Have you all done that, or are you supposed to do it?
Those were
just a
second year.
Okay. Okay, so second year rights. How many second year rights? So you all have visited villages, right? And so is that a similar experience? I mean, you can share. Right. Yeah, so that is something which I noticed, and very recently we did a large-scale survey across the country, and I will share a link to that. This was conducted by an organization called Pratham. So we collaborated, Pratham Education Foundation, I think some of you all might know it, they are into the education space. So we are now working together on this issue. So we did a large-scale survey, so about 70 districts, 700 plus villages across the country. And that report is there, but it was very clear, this is not an isolated issue, it is more or less across the country. So if you find waste being managed correctly in a village, it's an exception. Okay, so the rule is it will get littered, burnt, it will enter the ocean or a river or whatever it is. Okay? So this is the reality. I mean, I was just checking, the size of the FMCG industry is massive, and this has implications on waste management also. I think it's some 120 or 150 billion dollars or something in India. That's the size of the FMCG industry, fast-moving consumer goods industry. And rural is now a bigger part of that, right? And this 1 million tons, I mean, first of all, there is very little data on how much plastic is generated in these villages. But this is just an estimate, trying to triangulate a few numbers here and there. But give or take, it's about 1 million tons of packaging waste is generated per year only in the rural areas. Okay, that's the size of the problem we are talking about. And unfortunately, there is no system at all for collection of packaging waste. When we look at urban areas, the problems are very different, right? There's a huge amount of funding available, but then there are systemic issues, there is conflict of interest, and so on. Totally different topic. Here, they have just not set up any system. And maybe 20 years back, there was no system needed, probably, at least for this kind of waste. Because most of the waste was just food waste. No one needed any kind of, very rigorous waste management. But that's not how it is today. So Plastic Story, which is the Pratham report, and like I said, I'll share a link with you. It's a fairly detailed report. So no infrastructure to manage solid waste. Interestingly, 93% of the villages that we surveyed, there is a kabadiwala which exists nearby. So that is the dichotomy here. So it's not about lack of entrepreneurship. Okay. probably our country, and I've done a little bit of analysis of some of the other countries, we are probably much better off looking at problems and figuring out solutions, right? I mean, see, there are millions of people who engage in the waste economy in the country. So if there is an opportunity, a financial opportunity, you will find somebody there. Okay, and that's the proof. Kabadiwalas exist. However, not all types of waste material is taken by the kabadiwala, and that's where I want you all to remember this is a design issue. It's a design flaw in the whole system. Okay, because there is some material, and you will probably all are already thinking what material am I talking about? Yeah. What doesn't have value? What? See, they say waste is wealth. Okay, I don't know who started this. I want to shoot that guy. It is not always true. So what waste am I talking about? Which doesn't have economic value? Sorry? Polythene, partly yes. I mean, it's hard to get economic value out of it. It's light and so on. But yes, somebody was mentioning wrappers, packaging waste. Thermocol is one. Yes, it's an important part. But wrappers, I mean, so these days thermocol is it's largely used for industrial or your white goods and so on, largely. Oh, thankfully. But yes, the bigger issue is packaging waste. So everything is in a sachet, right? And more so for the rural areas. And while this is looked at as a big innovation, my God, like the smallest village in the country now can bathe with a shampoo and body wash or whatever it is, right? So that's looked at as an innovation or a win, a big win. But then the flip side is that it doesn't have any economic value, and therefore, so all of these. So there is cardboard, metal, hard plastic. Sooner or later, it will get collected from those villages. By and large, there are still villages where they don't care about it; they litter it. But there is a high chance that some of these materials will get collected. But what about wrappers, sachets? I have some data. I forgot to put up that slide, but I have details in terms of what do we collect. And 15% of that is footwear and clothes. 15% by weight is footwear and clothes. There is 15% glass. I mean, there are no takers for something like that. So we don't realize, the kind of things that we are consuming, and it's like I said earlier, it was only an urban issue. It's very much a rural issue, and I would put a hypothesis that it's probably worse than urban. That problem is probably worse than urban. I'll tell you why. And so the thing is, these waste materials remain in the community, right? They don't go anywhere. For us, it goes somewhere. It is away from us. Although it comes back when there's burning of plastic and so on, it's happening all around us. But in the rural areas, it's happening in your backyard, right? So probably we are sitting on a time bomb here. I don't know what health implications it will have, because the way they are disposing of their waste is quite scary actually. So these are routine, I mean, those who have visited villages, I mean, you will see this. This is not an urban scenario, this is a rural scenario. Every nook and corner you will have fires burning. The most shocking thing is they use this to start the chula. I don't know, have anyone seen this? Right? But why? Because this catches fire. It's oil. It's oil. It is oil. Yes. Winter, summer, all seasons they use. I mean, winter also for heat, of course. So that they use here also. But in the villages, whoever uses a chula, right, to start the fire, a lot of them, I mean, I was shocked to see they putting this on a stick and bandh dete hain aisa. And then it's like, okay, it will catch fire quickly. And it was shocking. So, I mean, it is, I mean, what can be worse than that in terms of pollution, right? Yeah, so these are the things that routinely, and the other thing, in Chhattisgarh, one of these villages, and when we were telling them, see, there are two parts to this. We talk about behavior change, right? What changes behavior? So I believe if the underlying belief changes, then your behavior can change very quickly. That's a hypothesis that I have. So when we used to tell them ki don't burn the plastic, it can cause X, Y, Z diseases and so on. So some of them were like totally shocked and they said, I didn't know this. So, okay, I will stop burning it, but then what should I do? They have, like in their head, they have changed behavior overnight, literally. Because the underlying belief that, okay, this is harmful for me has changed very strongly. And nobody has told them this before. None of the people in the villages are aware of the hazards of burning plastic waste. One of the sarpanch who we visited, she was so proud saying that अच्छा हमारे यहाँ पे कोई problem नहीं है, हमारा देखो ये plastic है ना यहाँ पे हम जला देते हैं. And she was proudly showing me that. I mean, of course, I don't blame her at all. Because this is what they feel, how they are taking care of that waste. This is the way to dispose of that waste. Right? So I think while the other half, like I said, half of them said, अच्छा हम क्या करें, हम जलाने वाले नहीं हैं. The other half said, अच्छा okay, if we don't use this for burning, then how do I start the fire? So they had other things in their head. अच्छा okay, you are telling me, okay fine, I will stop burning, then what do I do? And then part of them, they said, अच्छा ठीक है, we had a school program where we had asked the kids to collect plastic from home and get it to a school. That lady said, okay, मैं आधा plastic दे दूँगी, half I'll keep for burning. And so that is still on their minds, because see, they are thinking, again, I don't blame them, because for them livelihood or just saving some money on firewood, these are all the drivers for them, right? So it's a very, very complex thing to address. Just tell me time, I can go on and on, so just give me a little bit of a warning. The interesting thing is Swacch Bharat Mission, Grameen 2.0, it now talks about solid and liquid waste management. So that's a very encouraging thing. So what earlier it used to be ODF and so on, the ODF Plus actually talks about this, and there are very detailed documents around it. Maybe some of you all have seen this. These documents, if not, if whoever is interested can go to the Swacch Bharat Mission website and check these out. Very, very detailed documents. Where is the funding available? What are villages expected to do, and all of that stuff. What is lacking is on-ground implementation. And if you go to the dashboard, not surprisingly, you will find all the villages, checkbox, ODF plus, doing waste management, and so on. So all the dashboards are looking amazing. Okay, but actually if you drill down and see, nothing is happening, because you are working there, right? So I think, that's how it is. And this implementation, I guess, is an issue across the board. This is not just about waste management. I'm sure you have realized, whichever sector you've been working in, be it healthcare, education, whatever is your focus area, you will realize that implementation a lot of times is the issue. Okay, because there is a certain thought process. I'm not saying that there is no thought process at all, for the villages. You'll realize, okay, how do I put all of this together? The system integration approach is missing, and not all the problems are actually addressed in some of those documents, or they have not thought about certain aspects like viability gap funding, because these kinds of things, in spite of all the funding available, these are not financially viable models necessarily. The way the economics works today for waste, these are not financially viable. If they were, the kabadiwalas would have taken over by now, right? So it needs a certain amount of support, external support, some kind of funding. Yeah, so see the forward logistics, if you see today, I mean, this is something which I always keep thinking about. How do products manage to reach every nook and corner, every island, every hilltop, every remote village? I mean, somebody pays for it, right? We pay for it. I mean, the consumers pay for it. The brands take care of that in their P&L. They don't ask for support, saying that, Acha, I have to distribute this chocolate in this village. I need support. They figure out a way. Reduce pack size, right? Save on certain costs, but distribution they'll figure out. Reverse logistics, who pays for it? Who's supposed to pay for it? I think that's an open question. There are certain answers, but I think the crux is this, that nobody is today responsible for reverse logistics. Because it doesn't, although there is something called extended producer responsibility. Anyone heard of this term? Extended producer responsibility? Yeah. So I think it is supposed to take care of this, but unfortunately, again, implementation is an issue. Right? So these are all the stakeholders involved. I'm going to come to the crux of this. So these are all the people involved in waste management at a rural level. And the last thing, the producers and brands, they to me they should be on top. Maybe next to the consumers. But today, unfortunately, they are at the bottom. They are not focusing their energies. The amount of energies they focus on forward logistics, distribution, expansion, and so on. I don't think I can, sort of stick my neck out and say that I don't think they are even spending 1% of their effort there. Okay? And these are the costs. The health costs, environmental costs. They are not paying. These are the costs they are not paying, and at least part of their profitability is because of this. This can be very provocative, but I want to say this. That these are the costs they are not paying, which they should be paying. They can figure out how to pass that on, they can be as profitable, they can increase prices, whatever it is. But this is something, it's high time they include as part of their P&L. Taking back, someone has asked for a biscuit, not a wrapper. The wrapper is because you chose to send it that way. Now it is your responsibility to figure it out. I'm not saying they have their sales guys pick it up, but they have to support that system, period. Okay, that's, I think. Anyway, now coming back to this. So when I visited that village and I said, okay, I have to do something about it, I had zero connects at any of the villages. So how am I going to even implement something like this? So I was looking for partner NGOs who I can piggyback on, right? Who I can go along with and implement. So that's when I met up with quite a few NGOs, but Swades Foundation, you might have heard of this. This is run by Ronnie Screwwala actually. And they work in Raigad district. About 7 blocks of Raigad is what they were working on at that time. They were also expanded to Nasik now. So they were working on a holistic development plan. They called it Swapnat Gaon, Dream Village, and so on. That was their program. And doing really excellent work in those 7 blocks. And when I met them, I said, okay, what do your villagers do about the plastic waste? They said, don't know, they burn it. So I said, okay, it can't be a dream village if they are burning the plastic, so why not do something? So they were very much willing to do something about it. And so we said, okay, let's join hands. And so we started in September 19 with about 7 villages as a pilot. And at that time, I was not sure if they are even going to, take part in this program. Are they going to even segregate their waste and so on? It was quite an amazing experience for us. I mean, I work in Mumbai as well, right, with housing societies. And it was such a pleasant surprise to work in the villages. I struggled to implement, as in my team struggles to implement segregation at source at housing societies. My God, the kind of questions I get, the kind of philosophical discussions I have with them as to why they should segregate their waste or not. My God, it's quite taxing. But this was actually a breeze. Well, we had some errors where people mixed it up because there was some village function and so on. But by and large, we were successful at least getting villagers to segregate their waste. And our focus as an organization in villages, our focus is only the non-organic waste, essentially plastic and other waste, which they don't know what to do. Food waste and so on, which is anyway a relatively smaller component, and they know how to take care of it. We are not focusing on that. We are only focusing on the things like plastic and footwear and all of that stuff. So the journey from 7 to 350 has taken us quite an amount of time, and of course we lost about a year and a half during COVID. We couldn't do much, but I would say we were really very, very happy with the initial pilot that we had, and then today we are in about 350 plus villages, and I'll explain what exactly we do. So this is our model, of course, the way we are approaching this. Of course, there can be various ways to do this. What we were looking for is a strong local partner who can take us to the villages. So if we have to implement this, then this is what we look for. But basically, you need a very strong local organization who comes with that equity. If I had walked into any of the villages, nobody would have listened to me at all. Swades was there for 10-15 years. They had developed such a strong equity that whoever they had taken along, they would have at least heard them once. So having these Gram Sabhas and so on was a cakewalk. So that was not an issue at all. So that really helped us. So this is a very important aspect. Really deep connect in the villages. Also, although this is not a very critical part, but having the government teams support us is a bonus. It's good to have, not necessary that we have got any great support from them, but it's good if the government or the local officers are really interested, because you all have seen the kind of power they have if they really want to do something is enormous. It's really enormous, and we could have achieved a lot more if they were really interested in solving for this issue. So this is again, so the district and on-ground partner is in some ways related. So Swades Foundation basically ticked all the boxes, so we were very happy to go with them. Within the 7 blocks also, it's not that we are covering all the villages. There are still a few villages which are the laggards, if I may say. But our best villages were the ones where you had, of course, the Sarpanch, who was very keen on doing this, or there were some really strong local volunteers, typically women who are really, really driving this on the ground. And it's amazing to see the kind of support that we get at the villages. And this is all unpaid stuff. We are not paying them anything. These are all unpaid people. But in fact, interesting thing is, in some of the villages, when we send a truck for the first time, right, our truck goes village to village and picks up the waste. We've had cases where they have garlanded the truck, Nariyal Toda, and so on. Can you even imagine that happening in Bombay at all? Right? It's a crazy experience, and my team, when they go there, it's chai piyo, nashta karo, all that stuff. It still happens there, right? So it's quite amazing the kind of response we get from the villages, because they have not seen a garbage truck before in their life. This is the first time they are seeing this, and therefore the belief, here's again the belief which changes behavior. The belief that there is a system that works. this is not something which is trivial. A system that works, you would want to be a part of a system that works, and I think this is a universal truth, the way I have understood it, by and large. Right? Here also, why do people don't segregate? Because they know the system is broken. There is no working system, by and large, in the city, or so many other cities. Everyone wants to be part of a thing that is functional. And our attempt has been, so I mean, I can get into how we do the logistics, but if we tell them, and we don't pick up waste every day, we only pick this up once a month from each village. If we tell them that the truck is going to come on 25th of the month in your village, we go there. It's as simple as that. There's nothing more. We just show up. Maybe the first time nobody is segregating or whatever, they don't know. They're not even expecting us maybe. Second time, some of them do it. And they say, shit, wo ja hi nahi rahe. And then, because somebody is calling us, saying, nahi, nahi, aap aao. You come there and we will ensure that the waste is segregated, they're not burning it. The third time when we show up, it's like, okay, this is for real. They know there is a system which is working and then they participate. So I think this is a very important part. So I mean, there are a few things around logistics and so on that we take care of while selecting a village. A few things that we do, of course, is to conduct a baseline. What is happening, what are the current habits and practices, how much waste is generated. So we do a bunch of that. And then we onboard the village. So typically onboarding is all about going there, meeting a few people. In fact, these days we just go with the truck, because the truck has this huge, I'll show you a picture, it has this whole segregation chart. So that itself is we go with the holding only. Pura outdoor hi leke jao. So that way it's, and then everyone is like, oh, and we have this music playing on the truck. And so it's one big interesting entertainment program happening there. So the pickup truck itself becomes an awareness generation exercise sometimes. So this is my team member and so on. So they actually have these gram sabhas, have these corner meetings, and there's a video which we had. I'm not showing this right now. I'll share the details. Amazing video created by Swades. And because, like I said, it comes from Ronnie Screwvala, and he's the filmmaker, top filmmaker, so he's made it really beautifully. I'll share this later. Yeah, so this is the truck we go with, where we are explaining to people what all this is about. How do we implement segregation at source? So we had a very simple mechanism. We just give them this reusable bag. It's one of these goni type of a thing with a handle, so which they can just put all of their plastic waste in it and they can hang it somewhere. And it's a simple thing, but you would typically, intuitively, you will not put any food waste in it, right? I mean, it's very clear that you are supposed to put only paper and plastic and all of that. So it's a very simple mechanism. These are the bags that we distribute to all of them, and they buy it, by the way. Earlier, the initial villages we had distributed for free, but now they actually buy this bag from us. And it also has a segregation chart printed on it, so everyone knows what they are supposed to put in it. So they typically hang it somewhere outside their houses and so on. And the other thing is that when we send the truck, we ensure that we examine the waste before we put it into the truck. And that's the other thing. What we reinforce is that if you don't segregate, we are not picking it up. And it becomes a very strong message for them. See, here again, that's the difference. If you don't pick it up here, one phone call will go to some influential guy, they are not picking it up. All that nonsense doesn't happen there. So if I don't pick up the waste, then the other villager is telling this person, Don't you know such a simple thing? Next time, do it properly. No, so we are very clear. So again, we reinforce this, that if you don't segregate, you will not pick up the waste. And it works there. It may not work here. You can't probably, attempt something like this here. So what we tell all the villagers is to aggregate the waste at a few points in the village. So we don't collect house to house. We ask them to store the waste at their homes and aggregate it. So they can procure drums, or they have this little shed somewhere. They keep storing the waste at that central point, maybe 1 or 2 points, and then the truck goes and only picks it up from there. Of course, when the truck comes, then some of them have stored waste at their home, so they'll come with their little bags. They have names written on them also, so that they don't lose their bag. It's a very valuable thing for them. So it's a sight when you go and see the collection. It's an amazing experience actually. So we ask them to aggregate, and there's a monthly pickup. Like I said, we have first to the 30th. I mean, we have about 26 pickups now. So in each pickup, we cover 10 to 15 unique villages, and that's how we cover all of these 350 villages right now. So right now we are chock-a-block. And we are adding more and more villages. So looks like we need, another truck or something. In fact, we have to hire sometimes a truck for extra visits. Like during Ganesh Chaturthi, in fact, now there are they're going to generate a whole lot of waste to, send some extra or organize an extra visit and so on. Yeah, so these are the drums that they buy and they aggregate the waste in. And yeah, the kind of, like I said, it's just amazing the kind of support we get by, through some of the volunteers in the village. And the waste is absolutely clean to the extent possible, right? I mean, there's no mixed waste, no food waste, any hazardous waste, nothing at all. Yeah, and then monitoring. If it's a new village, we spend a little extra time looking at. Yeah, for the 7 talukas, we have 7 WhatsApp groups, and all the sarpanch, all the interested people, they are all part of it. And so there's constant communication happening with them, about the dates, if there's a problem with the pickup, if there's a breakdown or whatever it is, or there's a lot of rain and so on. So we keep in touch with them, and pickup schedule is communicated with them. Yeah, so we bought, earlier we were hiring a truck, now we just bought a truck. And there's a PA system, there's a driver and a helper who goes along with the truck. And yeah, and the discipline is just mind-blowing. I mean, the way they come in, they stand in a line and so on. It's just quite amazing. And this one is supported by Parley. This project is supported by Parley through CSR, by the way. This is not their business expense. Okay, it is a CSR expense. Still, I think it's commendable because you don't have too many organizations supporting something like this, although they may be putting a whole lot of plastic into the market. Yeah, this is all the waste that they have collected. Sometimes, like there's one village where, every little thing is collected. It's a very large village, and sometimes half the truck fills up just the amount of waste that they generate. Yeah, this was the quality control I was talking about. We ensure that there is no mixed waste, no hazardous waste coming in. And then we have created a material recovery facility, a shed basically, where we take it. And there are people, I think there's a, so we bring the waste to this shed. There are about 4 people who are there to further segregate it into different components, and then depending on what we are collecting, we try to send this across to the best possible destination. Okay, and it's not easy. what we have, or if we have solved the first problem, that okay, we have taken it away from the village, it's not burning in the village, but then how do I dispose it off? It's not easy. Like clothes, I have, till last week I had 4 tons of just clothes, and decent clothes, it's not rags or something like that, decent clothes, 4 tons of it from these villages. And luckily this week I think they found someone who's going to take it away. It's not easy. See, we are producing stuff, but we don't know what to do with it. There is zero circularity in this economy. Okay, forget the wrappers, I'm not even talking about that. Even if you give them a truckload of wrappers, sometimes people will not take it. Well, that's the situation. So these are the sorters who are, sorting it into different types. Yeah, and then we store it and financials, I'm not going to go into details, but there is capex, there is opex involved. Capex people might still support. Opex is something, operational expenses, logistics, people costs, is something which it's very difficult to make money in this kind of a business. So somebody, it needs support. The cost, like I said, of environmental and personal health, right? Who's going to bear that? That is something which needs to be solved. It is still an unsolved problem. The revenue generation is minuscule compared to what the amount of costs that are, and the gap funding itself is about 2.5 to 3 lakhs a month for this particular center. Okay, which is, if you look at the $120 billion, it's trivial. It's nothing. Even if you add up all of this for all the districts, it will be a fraction of the total cost of the industry itself. But that funding it's not available. It's just not available for solving this problem which they have created. It's not some, goodness of heart that I'm talking about here. Okay, so. Yeah, so about, in fact, the latest numbers, about 200 tons of waste we have picked up just in the last couple of years, and the villages are truly visibly cleaner. You should just actually visit them sometime to really believe this. But it's amazing the way they have kept those villages and clean, not because they are burning it, but they are actually giving it to us. So it's direct alignment. This is exactly what Swacch Bharat Mission intends to do, at least conceptually. And so waste is not getting littered or burnt in those villages. We haven't done a detailed analysis on the health impact. It will require obviously a different kind of a study, but I'm sure somewhere someone is getting positively impacted because of this. Entrepreneurship. So we launched a new project. I think I have mentioned about this. We just launched our second project with Pratham in Ahmednagar district, and here we are doing the logistics. So it's GCF staff and so on, we are doing all the logistics. In Ahmednagar, we actually got some of the self-help groups to do a lot of the logistics. The people who are employed there, they are all the, from the self-help group and so on. So it can actually generate a lot of local entrepreneurial opportunities. They can solve their own district or taluka or village ka problem, right? And of course they'll need external support, which ideally the brands or government or whoever should come up with. Of course there can be certain revenue models, but there will be a gap which they'll need help on. And just one thing, I feel, like I said, okay, having one project is fine. We have created something. There are of course other projects in other areas. I'm not saying this is the only project, but the size of the problem is so huge that I think someone needs to put out some kind of a paper which says, okay, this is the problem, please wake up to this problem. I don't think it is even on the radar. It is not talked about as much. So I think if we can create some kind of a leadership paper saying, okay, this is the problem and these are potential solutions to this, I think that's what it is. And of course, you all will have a lot of ideas. It's keen to hear that in terms of, okay, what else can we do? I have not even looked at, there is no tech solution at all in this except WhatsApp. I think that's the most sophisticated tool that we use today in this project. There's nothing else. But I'm sure there are ways to use technology, optimization, route planning and so on. We haven't reached that kind of a stage, but I'm sure at the larger scale one can think of, like I said, and of course technology interventions for recycling or upcycling, because we struggle with so many types of waste. I mean, the recycling or upcycling infrastructure is abysmal in the country, I would say, right? And so I think there needs to be more, either it's a tech issue or what, I don't know, but there needs to be a solution for this.
Perfect timing. Perfect. We have about half an hour for Q&A, because I'm sure that this is
Yes. Yes.
Hello, thank you so much. My name is Vishnupriya and I'm a PhD scholar here. So I have a lot of questions, but I'll try to keep it.
I have only one question right now.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm actually very happy to see a very utopian solution for the first time, because when we work in a sector like what we do, we find a lot more complications and you seem to have handled it very quickly. So one of the major questions is something that you mentioned you will tell in the beginning of the presentation as to why rural is more of a concern than the urban. You said you will get to it. So I was very curious to know why rural has, because in an urban scenario one would expect more of plastic waste due to our very fast-paced life.
Yeah, so the reason is, like I said, the disposal of waste in the rural areas happens very close to you. So I mean, one can do a more detailed study on this, but none of us land up burning plastic in their homes. I mean, that much people are aware today, right? They don't want waste anywhere in, let's say, 200-meter radius or whatever that is, right? It has to be away. So to that extent, it's right out there in your kitchen. So to that extent, I said it's probably a more, or it's a bigger issue today. From that point of view, I said. And but at the same time, like you said, the amount of waste generated by the city itself is large, and the dumping ground is not too far away. Right? So yes, I mean, we have bad air quality and so on. At least part of it is because of garbage burning and so on. So I think what I'm trying to say, it's kind of similar. It's not that the rural areas are now having nice clean air and everything is all fine. This is contributing to that. It's probably as big of it. That's what I mean.
So after you collect all this waste, how many plants do we have that recycle it? Because recycling is not a profitable industry is what I've heard. I'm not sure in terms of plastic, because I've heard that's why people don't do it as much.
No. Recycling, again, see, you can't bucket plastic as one big thing. You have to look at different types of plastic, right? So PET recycling is probably the most profitable, and anyone, I mean, you find Gujarat and there are hubs there. In the north there are hubs. In fact, in Maharashtra also, Malegaon and so on, there are recycling is a very profitable business if you choose what material you are handling. Okay?
Like wrappers.
Wrappers, no. See, wrappers, the challenge is, and again, so here is the tech part, right? I mean, wrappers typically have multiple layers. So you will have multiple types of plastic, there's aluminium foil and so on. So all of them have different ways of recycling. The melting points of the plastic will be different. So it's a mess. Okay, so the reason why MLP recycling multi-layer plastic or wrapper recycling is difficult is because the way it has been designed. It is not designed for recycling at least. And those who take multi-layer plastic, they'll make boards out of it, something like this, like a replacement for plywood or virgin plastic or something like that. That's what they make. But the challenge there is the cost at which you are able to sell that. It's not cost competitive. Don't think that just because you made it from waste, So that's one big fallacy. Just because it is made from waste, it is not going to be cheaper. On the contrary, a lot of times virgin material is cheaper, and we know why. Because there is someone who is controlling that supply, and they are not paying certain costs.
And it's subsidized.
And it is subsidized. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was asking.
Exactly.
So,
In fact, let me tell you this. Somebody told me the other day. There is something called bottle-to-bottle recycling now. Okay? PET bottles. See, typically, sorry.
Pepsi has a.
Pepsi and so on. So, usually when PET bottles are recycled, you typically make yarn. You make all those dry fit T-shirts. Which is, oh wow, I'm doing something for the environment. All rubbish. Because that no one knows what to do with that PET recycled T-shirt once it is thrown away. There is no. You're just, like they say, pushing the can down the road. There is no solution to this, right? But there is somebody who came up with bottle-to-bottle recycling. Okay? And so basically PET bottles can be now converted back to PET bottles for reuse. And apparently, I do not confirm, but somebody told me that they slashed the price of virgin PET so that this becomes environable.
So who finally buys the wrapper waste?
Nobody. Today, most of the wrappers are bought from the city. Forget the villages. From Mumbai, there is very little PET that goes for any kind of recycling or upcycling. It is burnt. It goes to the dumping ground. It is not even picked up. If you ask a rag picker, just notice, have you noticed rag pickers who move around on the road? What do they pick up? Bottles? What else? Metal? Glass, not these days. I mean, sometimes yes. Glass also is becoming difficult, but no. So yeah, so cardboard, hard plastic. They will, and we had done a study. If the rag picker has to pick up sachets, how many times? Let's say you are picking one sachet at a time. How many times will the rag picker have to bend down to collect 1 kg? One fact. 120 times? Well, of course, depends on where you are. We actually did a study depending on where you are picking it up from. If you are picking it up from a lower income community where you have smaller pack sizes, you have to bend down 500 times. 500 wrappers to a kg. And what will she get for it? Usually 0. If she is lucky, if someone is running some special program, she may get 1 or 2 rupees.
So what does GCF do with the collected single waste wrapper plastic?
So wrappers, there is a now. So there are some applications, if I may call it applications. It's a nice term called waste to energy. In fact, they call it something co-processing. It sounds so nice and rosy. Co-processing. What co-processing? It's basically sent to a cement plant for burning. Okay, or something like that. And unfortunately, so luckily there are a few upcyclers, recyclers we have identified. You can make a bunch of things, right? So you can make benches, you can make chairs, all of that. It's basically extruded material. You can make a whole lot of things. But there has to be a market for it. We have identified a few recyclers and hopefully we will send our material to them. But ultimately somebody has to buy those benches, right? And those benches are not always the most cost competitive. And so on. So we need a buyer for that. So we have to close that loop, which we are trying to do, but it's not always easy to do. And in fact, Swadesh is trying to help us because they work in villages. They make these toilet doors and benches in schools and so on. So we are trying to see if they can buy those benches and stuff like that. So it's actually some kind of not exactly circular, but at least it goes to the right destination.
Last question. A little insider information if you can. When you were working in Nestle, did they have any such thought process, at least like how Parle you had mentioned they had a CSR and everything? Is this how they handle it in Switzerland, if I'm not wrong?
Where? 96 to 2000. Don't even ask me what I was thinking of when I was at Nestle. Okay? Seriously, zero. I had totally different priorities, waste, packaging. I had zero idea. But now when I go back and see what they are doing, so yes, they do support CSR through CSR. It's largely through CSR. And EPR is another totally different ballgame. I think we can discuss that later. But through CSR, yes, I know they are supporting a few projects in the hills in the north because they are based at their head office is in Delhi. So they work in the Himalayas with a few non-profits that I know. Similar kind of work. So like I said, there are examples, similar examples of work that is happening in the hilly regions, which again is a very, very big issue. So I know today they do that. Now that you asked me this question, my junior at Nestle, he's now the CEO or MD of Nestle Vietnam. And what I heard from him the other day is the cost of compliance, plastic waste compliance in Vietnam had become so high. So the government was actually putting a very high cost on compliance. So the FMCG industry for the first time in Vietnam, they came together and they said this is becoming too expensive, let's do this on our own. And I believe they have now started engaging with waste pickers, grassroots organizations. Here nothing like that happens, or very little of that happens. There they have said, "Acha, let's do this, we can do this better." And of course they can do this better. They distribute this across the country. I mean, of course they have skills, they are not dumb. Right? Obviously they have all the tech, they know how to do this at the lowest cost. But if they decide to do this, probably they'll be the best ones to run a program like this. I'm not into logistics, I didn't study. Oh, let me stop there. I didn't study, but I didn't study logistics either.
Thank you so much.
Change the mic actually, this is better.
Thanks for your presentation. I have two questions. The first is how much is it in percentage the viability gap funding in your case? Because you talked that you require 2 to 3 lakhs per village per month. No? So how much are you expecting?
Our current revenue is hardly about 30,000 a month, 30 to 40,000 a month. So that's the revenues is nowhere close to covering our costs. So you can say almost 80-90% of the cost is what we need as funding. Because see, like I said, there is very little revenue we get from most of the material that we get.
And the second question is to the response to the second question is to the response of the previous question. You told that they are trying to make some doors and stuffs out of the non-recyclable plastics. So is the quality of that stuff up to the mark?
I have seen it now. I don't know if they have done proper evaluation in terms of various parameters and so on, but whatever I've seen and what people have told me, it's amazing. The quality is very good. So it has nothing to do. Probably it's better sometimes than some of the stuff you get in the market. Okay. In fact, since you asked, there is this paver block they make. Okay, using this kind of material. Now that might be a different issue, but he went to a government organization, let me put it this way, and they asked him कि इसका क्या life है? They said एक बार लगाओ टूटेगा नहीं, पागल हो गया, ऐसे कुछ लेके आओ जो टूटे 1-2 साल में. So I mean, people are looking for something else. But the answer is yes, the quality is not an issue.
Okay. And what about the end of life plastics? What are you planning to do with the end of life plastics?
So you mean to say whatever is, let's say for me, end of life is once you add your single use.
Single-use plastics which do not have any use. So only to burn that in kilns, cement kilns?
Yeah, so see, the thing is, uh, so that's where I said it's a design flaw. When you are putting something in the market, you have to look at the full life cycle. What is going to happen to this particular product, right, once it is consumed? And in fact, another thing which I heard, the primary reason to introduce multi-layer plastic, or one of the reasons to introduce multi-layer plastic versus mono material, is the branding, the shine, the print quality, and all of that is what in fact someone I think from one of the packaging companies had told me. That is one of the significant reasons why nobody wants to go back to mono materials. It's not always, of course, there might be better shelf life and a little bit better, but one of the key things is the pack is shinier, you get better print. Now, priorities are totally different. Okay, so no one is going to, in fact, 2016, the solid waste management rules, they had identified this issue. And they had mentioned that multi-layer plastic should be phased out by 2018. Right? And what did the industry do? They changed, they got an amendment which said that you can continue to produce this material as long as it is energy recoverable. What does that mean? Energy recoverable, meaning you can burn it. If you burn it, there is heat. That's what it means, energy recoverable. And so we continue to produce it. 2016, actually, a lot of people had rejoiced कि चलो MLP गया and multi-layer plastic is not going to be produced in another 10 years.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot.
Just on that, the financial side, you said is it per village or per center?
No, this center, which is today covering 350 villages, the 2.5-3 lakhs per month is our total center cost.
Over 350 villages.
Yeah.
And how does it scale? Maybe this is the maximum limit per center, or is it if there are more villages were to
See,
add it?
as per the Swacch Bharat Mission guidelines, a center like this should ideally be there in each taluka. Okay, depending on the size of the taluka, number of villages and so on, but they have recommended a center like this for each taluka, and you can have maybe a super center at the district level and so on, or maybe not necessary also, depending on the amount of waste generated. But at a taluka level, there is funding available, and actually this whole 7 blocks, it may have about 700 to 800 villages. Okay, so we are kind of reaching capacity for this center now. So we'll probably need another center somewhere, because the logistics costs are actually high for us, because the farthest we go to is almost 50 kilometers. To pick up.
So is it so one is a question, if you compare it with the urban situation, is it the density is too high in the urban areas?
Yes,
Therefore
absolutely.
operations can work. So what does that mean in policy terms? And even the product you are making, and you talked about this thing will not happen. So there are other concerns that even if you make something out of it, well, I don't know whether without making or but also with making, the micro plastic pollution is also, so even if you make those paver blocks, it's not true that they will never disintegrate.
Absolutely.
Over time, the microplastic pollution will happen from there. And
So whatever we generate as a solution is suboptimal, is going to be suboptimal. It is not going to be 100%. Even like when they burn it, when they say waste to energy and so on, the kind of dioxins, furans which could be generated, no one knows. Right?
the question is then how does one generate debate? Maybe everybody is aware, but it's just too convenient to just do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't honestly have answers, but to your earlier point, from a logistics perspective, I'm sure there can be cost savings. I'm not saying it will become a financially viable thing, but I'm sure if we actually go down, actually involve each and every village, I'm sure we'll come up with a optimized solution that there have to be 3 centers in these villages in this cluster, 100%. I'm very sure of that. So this is not the best case scenario at all. I'm sure we can improve on this. Yeah, sorry, you're being waited.
So, thank you, sir. So, I had a few doubts, and I think in some or the other form, these questions have been addressed to a certain extent, but the first thing is how limited is EPR? Because once when I worked with a specific company, they had said that if they are producing X amount of waste, they are supposed to recycle the same amount of waste as per the plastic waste rules 2016. Is it like limited that they are only they will only invest in the capex part and not on the opex part? That's why you said that. Is that the case? And the second part to the same question is MSMEs are not they don't have this compulsion as per that rules. So if they do an EPR, do they get credits for taking such an initiative? Do they get any benefit out of it?
Okay, the first one I can respond to. Second one I'm not 100% sure of. But the first one, see what's happening with EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. So that and those plastic waste management rules are getting updated literally every 6 months or a year and so on. So there are new amendments coming up, and I must say that yes, there is a certain thought process which has gone into it and so on. So all of that is good. Now practically what's happening is, like you said, if let's say an organization is putting 100,000 tons of plastic in the market, they are supposed to show that they have supported recycling or co-processing or whatever of those 100,000 tons. And there is division by material, by the way. So PET or hard plastic is considered separate, mono material is like LDE and so on is considered separate, and your multi-layer plastic is considered separate. Even biodegradable plastics, whatever that category is, that is now the fourth one, right? Now for each of the categories there are separate targets for each of the brands, and that there is a portal, CPCB portal, which is there. Everyone can download the data. You will know each brand what is their liability. Now, how do they meet this compliance requirement? It's a paper-based compliance. They are supposed to upload certificates which they receive from recyclers or the waste to energy plants or whoever it is, saying that on their behalf they have recycled or co-processed X tons of plastic. So it's basically certificates. Okay, and that's where the big issue is. All I can say is last September, there was a raid by CPCB on the top 3 recyclers in the country. In fact, they were from Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat, 3 large recyclers. And these are the go-to recyclers for most of the brands in the country. They realized that there was this particular recycling plant from where they had generated these certificates. That plant was not functional. They came up with 6 lakh fake certificates. They identified 6 lakh fake certificates. And the brands are buying these certificates. And they are not ignorant about this. Okay? So that is the reality. I'm not saying that all of this is fake and so on, but a significant part, the reason why you see so much of plastic out there is because somebody is printing these certificates, and every annual report, any respectable company's annual report, you'll see we have picked up more plastic than we have put in the market. We are plastic neutral.
That's actually sad because we were asked to show emission reductions based on that data. So that is one thing. Second thing is for the, I think the co-processing is same as this concept called refuse derived fuel, which is the same thing that is happening at the Kanjurmarg waste segregation site, where after doing a certain level of material MRF separation, they separate the non-recyclable waste and degrade it down to RDF, and they allow to burn it in ratio of 10 to 20% along with coal or something else in closed environment. So I guess it is the same as this, and it is not a solution for wrappers.
It cannot be, but a lot of it is actually going this way.
And a few years ago, I heard that there is a technology that using plastic you can increase the lifespan of roads.
Road?
Yeah, it was a patented technology, but is that into
So again, see the thing is,
yeah, the shelf life of roads. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I have seen those reports, and again, I am not any expert on whether the road condition improves. Maybe it does. I am looking at it again. I am not even looking at the microplastic it will generate and so on. I am not even looking at that. I am saying, chalo, theek hai. You are saying ki roads banao. Okay, put all the plastic in the road. The challenge, purely from an implementation perspective, is that there are just too many agencies involved in making this happen. Okay, first of all, where is the road getting constructed? Who's the contractor? Where is the plastic getting generated? Right? All of this, just imagine the number of variables that have to align to even make this happen. Forget the technology or the technical aspects or the other plastic pollution and so on. Just to make this happen, it's not straightforward. Okay, so even if there is a directive, who's going to put all of this together? It may sound trivial, but trust me, this is an issue. And wherever this has happened, so there are success stories where someone will say, oh, Bangalore mein ban gaya, Karnataka mein ban gaya. Somebody has put in that effort to bring all these agencies together, ensure this is happening on the ground. All incentives have to be aligned. So who will bring the plastic there? Are they getting enough material? See, the agencies involved are different. Road maker and plastic collector, no connection at all. So who's going to bring all this together? That becomes a bigger challenge.
Hello, thank you. So, just a simple question I have. You said that earlier you were giving those cloth bags for free, and now people are paying to buy that. So, how did you convince people to buy it, and was there a shift in their perspective? And going forward, when you say that you want to charge a user fee, will that be difficult for people to get convinced about? Like, what's the kind of perspective that needs?
I think the conversion to the bag, I think, was relatively easy, because what we also do is share a whole lot of photographs on our groups and so on, and people really understand the value of, a bag like it costs 20 rupees. So for them, it's not such a big issue, and so they themselves ask for it. So we had stopped distributing the bags. We said, you use any bag you want, a sack or whatever it is, just store the plastic separately. Then they said, no, this is convenient, we like this bag, you please give it to us. So you buy it. We said, okay, fine. Okay, so that is there. The user fee part, now that is probably the only thing which can make this financially viable. Difficult, I'm not saying unless, we'll have to work out the math. Even then it might not help, but that is something which can potentially help reduce the gap. And we were hesitant to do that, and in fact we had asked Swade, so they said, yeah, let's start charging them 10 rupees a month per house or whatever it is. And again, as part of the Swacch Bharat Mission, there is a certain budget involved. So that is something which we are still working on. And there is something called as a GPDP, Gram Panchayat Development Plan. Some of you all might have heard of it or worked on it and so on. Today they are not putting any budget under waste management. Okay, and we asked them why. They say, "Abhi shed bana ke kya hai? Wahan to jalana hi hai na? Why waste money in making some infrastructure? Because what is the use?" When they see a solution, okay, then they will say, "Acha, I will buy a bag because it is part of this system. I will make a shed because this is needed for aggregation, because GCF is going to come and collect it. Or we will budget user fees into it because GCF is saying agle saal se nahi karenge." And then who's going to pay for all the logistics? Because they have now seen a clean village, what it looks like and so on, right? So the budgets are there. They will now start putting heads, saying that acha ye paisa mangte hain, let's ask for a vehicle, let's ask for a shed. So I think we are slowly trying to move them in that direction. We ask for money for the relevant things, and that's where we'll probably get closer to some kind of financial viability, but I still have a feeling you'll need a gap. There will be some gap, and collect karenge to where do I send it? That again remains an issue, but at least the logistics we might be able to take care of using user fees.
Questions in that part of the, there is one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So you told about the frequency, like once in a month it is collected, like it goes around and it is collected. So is only once in a month enough for a particular village?
Yeah, see, you have to understand that Raigad, these 7 talukas, the size of the village that we are talking about, the average size is about 80 to 100 homes. Okay. Now this is very different from Ahmednagar. In fact, in Ahmednagar, those villages are 500 to 1,000 houses each average. So there itself, we have done at least a twice a week pickup we have to do. So all of this will change, depending on the geography. So this is not a model that I will just cut and paste there. Obviously, depending on what are the realities, we have to change it. So of course, this is enough for these kinds of villages.
First of all, thank you for that you have highlighted an issue that is related to the villages, because we have been talking about the cities, smart cities and all. Having said that, India is a country of villages. So, sir, this is my question, and you can say it's a type of suggestion. So first of all, you are an NGO, so your key interest would be like for program, not the profit oriented, right? So, sir, I am from UP, Uttar Pradesh, and sir, there is sir, population density is more, consumption is more. So I have seen in my villages, that this waste problem is a major problem, and sir, just like a personal experience of mine, I'm coming from a farming background. So when I talk to my father, he says that 20 years back, there was no plastics and there was no clothes in the fields. Now the fields are infested with all those things, and when we do the so my question is that you are focused on some Raigad district or something like that. So do you provide or can you provide the training to the villagers so that they can create a model or a self-sustained model? Because the village size is more, the population is more, they can contribute to a fund so that they can create their own system, something like that, something that is similar to your system.
Yeah, so we do receive a lot of inquiries from different districts, different states. कि someone sees some website video, अरे हमारे यहाँ पे भी ये issue है. I understand, okay, and the only thing I'm able to do is give them some of these guidelines. But to create a project, a viable project, okay, which is an end-to-end project. So some village में से अच्छा हम लोग plastic collect कर लेंगे. That is not enough, right? I have to think about 5 steps ahead. How will this? Where will it go? Who's going to pick it up? Where is the finance going to come from? Right? Will this happen only just for that particular month? How is it going to sustain for the next 2-3 years? So it needs creation of a project. Okay, just doing a village and you will feel happy about it, that's not enough. Unless you have some larger project that you can sort of, latch on to. Suppose there is some nearby project कि अरे हम लोग collect करके उनको भेज देंगे, चलो ठीक है, हो गया. But there is nothing like that. Then you have to think of a whole lot of details, and that's a project on its own. And so, ideally, there has to be a local organization. It is definitely possible. Now, whether we will do it or what, see, Pratham, just to let you know, Pratham works in about 50,000 villages. Their intent is to do this in as many villages as possible, as quickly as possible. They are in UP also, I don't know which district you are talking about and where they are. At some point we will reach, but I don't know, it has to happen quicker. So there are more organizations who have to come and see. This is not complicated at all. It's just that we have stuck to it, gotten it done. It is not, how complicated is this model? Nothing actually, but there is, you need to have these 20 organizations who will make it work. So identifying, it's finally a people thing. Who is interested in doing this? It's not about the tech, it's not about the training. That's the easier part. You need the right organization who will implement it there. That's, the answer is yes, but
Sir, I want to ask something. Sir, you are working on logistics only, or you are doing some research on composition of plastic? Because globally there are some research paper in which fungus, you can say mushroom also, used for decomposition of various type of plastics, PU and other kind of different fungus are using different fungus. They are decomposing plastic because it is very difficult to decompose it by different methods. Fungus is very useful in that. Even there are some research paper I am reading.
So I know what you are talking about. I am not doing that research. My only thing is that how do you contain that fungus? You can't say कि ये plastic waste है, उसको खाओ. ये shop में का plastic है, इसको अभी मत खाओ.
I just want to ask, have you thought about it or implemented?
I have read it. I am not implementing it here. If you know such a fungus who will work on waste, please bring it there. That is not my focus area. Honestly, my focus is just to ensure plastic यहाँ से निकालो, जलाओ मत. That is what I am focusing on. Tech solutions and so on, honestly, not my.
In future.
No, those are the kind of solutions the brand has to implement, right? They make so much of R&D on toothpaste made this, that, and God knows what all. They should do some R&D on material. What to take care of it, how to take care of it.
That is understandable because your audience will always get into ye dil mange more.
Of course, I understand.
I think a short answer to that is where you and Sitara come together.
Yes, absolutely.
Coming to this organizations issue, you did many more. Are you in touch with Srimukti Sangatna?
We are very much in touch. In fact, thanks for mentioning this. We are right now in Mumbai doing a Nirmalya composting project in our ward together.
Outside Mumbai. Yeah.
Outside Mumbai, they are present. So we are.
We can discuss it offline because
of course.
worthwhile. It's worthwhile doing it because they have the potential. They don't have the logistics well without. Probably we could discuss this.
I know that organization very well. They know us very well.
Sometimes भात आणि चणे एकत्र आणावे लागतात.
Possible.
My second point is, since you are doing this collection, is it a good idea to have baling machine so that your transportation volume reduces?
Absolutely.
Because that capex money can come from CSR.
Actually, capex is not the issue at all. We would have installed a baling machine. We don't have a three-phase line. So our center is actually, it's an operational issue. It happens to be in a place where we don't have we have asked for a three-phase line. The moment we get it, we'll put a proper baling machine. But yes, this can be very, very helpful.
And single-phase balers are not available?
We were suggested to go for something like this, but we can look at that. So that is not a constraint. Capex is not a constraint.
On a lighter note, you mentioned about the CSR. So it reminds me of a Urdu couplet. रात भर जी भर के पी ली, सुबह को तौबा कर ली, रिंद के रिंद रहे, हाथ से जन्नत न गई. So the Nestle's of the world, रात भर जी भर के पी लेते हैं, CSR का पैसा दे देते हैं. So I think it salvages everybody conscious. The last point is, if you are you in touch with Gunj for the cloth waste? We spoke to Gunj.
In fact, they are in Mumbai. They said you transport it here to our center, and that transportation itself is a huge cost. They are not going to pay anything for it. They take stuff free. They have a center in Dahisar here. So they said yes, sure, we'll take all the cloth. Send us some pictures. We send them pictures. They said you send it to us. We can't bear the transport cost.
Okay, last point was this. You need about 40 lakhs per annum.
For this center?
Yeah, for this center. Suppose you tell some panchayat, they have 15 finance commission money. Yes, like they give 50, CSR gives 50. Would you be able to swing it? And if yes, we can talk separately, offline.
You can certainly see right now, like I said, we are looking at their budgets, whatever they have asked through the 15 Finance Commission. We are looking at each village's budget.
Money is there.
Yes, it is there. But like I said, in the last year's thing, they have not even put any budget. Now onwards, we are telling them, please put a certain amount. But this proposal is something.
Carrot of 50%, then that can taper off.
Certainly, I think it's worth looking at. Definitely.
The last burning question.
From here, yeah. What can I?
Nobody on the left side of the room?
One question that comes to my mind. Will you be charging for the transportation?
Charging
for? Charging for the transportation purpose, because earlier you were not charging for the beverages and all. Then for that carry bags you charge 10
For to the villages, right? Yeah. So the user fees, I think that's what she was referring to. We hope to charge user fees going forward. We are just figuring out what is the best way to do this. But yes, that is certainly on the agenda. So basically, then they will pay at least for the part of the transport. That's the idea.
Okay, so one last question from
yes.
So, as you say that most of this plastic was being used for lighting their chulhas. So when they are giving away this plastic, maybe not everyone is keeping half of it for their burning, hopefully. But then, have you thought of it or provided or people have invented any alternative for that? Or are you in search of?
So I actually came across Smokeless Chula Foundation. I think that's what it is called. In fact, I have been thinking about, okay, can that be a tech solution? You know, where you have better efficiency in terms of fuel and so on. Certainly, I mean, I would be very happy to partner with them. I mean, I spoke to that lady who runs this organization. I think they are focused in Palghar area and so on. But absolutely, I think something which helps them will be absolutely amazing.
But to start it, you still need in Chula also for starting that fire. They might be using.
Typically, they will either use kerosene or something.
Okay, yeah. Kerosene was an issue. One of the reasons was, okay, kerosene is hard to find or it's expensive and so on. That's the reason they are. But yes, any tech solution we can provide them, absolutely happy to.
And that earlier first question about urban versus rural. So urban poor also use substantial amount of solid fuels, right? So water heating or any other purpose. So have you, since you are also working in Mumbai, have you come across the use of plastic in burning in that category?
In the slums, we have not seen, like for cooking, there is not any firewood. I mean, it will be a disaster if there is, because it's, I have not seen in the slums.
If you just walk out of IIT, the Pujanagar, there are enough stoves, food stoves which are using
plastic,
waste wood of various sorts, and especially for water heating, it is a very common.
So there is a separate air pollution group which has been formed, and one of the things what they have realized is that the bakeries, they didn't look at the individual houses, but bakeries are using this kind of fuel, and one of the things is to see how we can convert them to LPG or something like that. But individual slums we try to work with, but they have totally different issues, and there's a whole lot of dynamics around working in a slum. We try to do that, but no, we don't have a great success story.
And lastly, you kept on mentioning about very clean plastic being collected or wrappers, but many times my always worry is when we get that tomato ketchup sachet, not all of these can be 100% clean when you even use the content. So what happens to those kind of food wrappers which have some particles of food? So it is not 100% only plastic. It has some.
Yeah, no, I get it. So at least when we are collecting it, we are sending it for recycling. Most of them have a cleaning line before they.
When you collect, you reject these because these are unclean, or
See, we are not able to check every little packet, but by and large we see that, and we see the extent of some of these products are relatively low. Our center is not the cleanest place in the world. Yes, we do have some of these instances, but those are the occupational hazards, if I may say. So yes, we do get that, but we, as much as possible, ask them to say, "Acha, theek hai, don't put any, ensure no food waste." But obviously, there will be a little bit of it, and under given circumstances, it's okay. We don't have an option. We can't ask them to wash each and every sachet. But by and large, we get pretty good quality of sachet.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, we have kept you with us for more than 1.5 hours. Thank you so much for sparing time. And I'm sure the participation of students and the questions. So we'll definitely work on your last slide in terms of how to collaborate further. So there are different type of suggestions which will come up. So may I request Professor Agnihotri to do the small.
Yeah, and if anyone thinks of a question later, you can message me. I have.
So we have a small memento from Sitara.
Since you talked about not burning, we would take.
We are formally closing the session here, but if you have any further questions, I think a few minutes, I can spare.